I'm sitting here at the Oostromse Beek in Oostrum in Fenrai. And here behind me is a protected national heritage site. This means that this is an incredibly important place, not just for Oostrum, but for the entire country of the Netherlands. Because a protected heritage site isn't easy to become. Monuments are places or buildings that are so important to us as a society that the government said this is so important that we have to preserve and protect it no matter the cost. So let's see and find out what's hidden here that's so important. This is it, Spraland Castle. It was built in the 13th century and it was torn down in the 15th century. And when I mean torn down, I mean torn down. There is no evidence left that this castle used to be here. There is not a single brick left of the original castle. The only thing left is the hill the castle used to stand on. So this hill is a monument, protected cultural heritage. And that brings up the question, what exactly is heritage? This question brings us here, the post office of Fenrai. It's an important building for a lot of people. I have fond memories of it myself. But despite its importance to the community of Fenrai, it's not a monument. And it will be demolished, and in its place, apartments will be built. That is sad. It's a shame. And a lot of people are against the deconstruction. But it does tell us something about what heritage is. Society is constantly changing, and in order to go forward, some things have to be kept and some things will disappear. And there are people that decide for us as a society what is important enough to preserve and what isn't. And that sounds a little unfair, but because subjectivity and opinions are so important for our own perspective, and everyone can think of at least one reason to keep or destroy something, it is necessary. One important reason to do it this way is nostalgia. Nostalgia is the feeling that you missed something, that you lost something. You can be nostalgic for people or places, buildings, moments. I always get incredibly nostalgic from Happy Togethers, from the Turtles. And Happy Together, unfortunately, will probably never be heritage, because no matter how important it is to me, as a society, nostalgia isn't enough to preserve something. To decide what will be or become heritage, three questions are very important. What, why, and how. The first question, what, tells us something about what something is. It's a building or an object or a tradition, you name it. And it already tells us a lot, because things that are common or easily to produce are less likely to become heritage than something unique, something that only one or just a couple of exist in the world. Another important question is why? Why is specifically this thing so important that it has to be preserved? Here everything becomes a lot more complicated, because who decides this and based on what? Usually there are multiple factors. Aesthetics, for example, can be important, the way something looks, if it's exceptionally beautiful. But looks alone usually isn't enough. Usually factors in how old something is, or who made it and how, or how unique it is. But all these factors are still, in the end, subjective. And that's a shame, but unfortunately, these are the best tools we have to make these decisions. The last question, how, is also a very important one, because it asks the question, how to deal with heritage. How do we preserve it, exhibit it, or keep it relevant for the future generations? And this is a question that has been subject of a lot of discussion, because more and more people agree that simply labeling something heritage isn't enough. There has to be a way to keep it relevant for the next generation after the one that made something heritage. And this question is closely tied to the why question, because if there's no way to keep something relevant, then what's the point of preserving it in the first place? Because one important thing to realize is that preserving something doesn't give any guarantees that it won't be forgotten. Everything changes. There's nothing we can do about that. It's just the way the world and the universe works. People will die. Buildings, traditions, monuments will disappear. And that sounds sad, but it also gives us a lot of power, because we alone know what we experience, what we think is important, and who we are. And heritage, culture, leaving something behind is a medium to tell the people of the future, hey, we were once here, this is who we were, and this is what we think is important. And the good thing about this is that everybody has their own story about this, and that's beautiful. And let's give these stories more space. The post office will disappear, just like a lot more buildings in the Netherlands and everywhere around the world. It's a bummer, and it's normal to think it's sad. But isn't that the beautiful thing? The fact that we as humans have made so many things that are beautiful and that we're proud of and that we want to keep, that it's almost impossible to decide what we want to throw out and what we want to preserve. The world is filled with beauty. It's filled with interesting, exciting, and wonderful things. It would take a lifetime to even experience a fraction of everything there's to see. So, what are we waiting for? Let's discover things. Let's go on adventures. Let's see what there is to see. Let's ask ourselves the questions what, why, and how for the things around us. This way, we will learn something about the world around us and about ourselves. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.